Chief Executive of the Fremantle Football Club, Simon Garlick, is our guest inside the second hour of SEN WA Breakfast, made in WA for WA. Nelson Irrigation give us the news, teaming up with FX Lumiere to add that wow factor to your garden lighting. Official trade time starts today. Simon Garlick, appreciate your time. Good morning.
Good on you, Goss. Thanks for having me on, mate. Listening as I was coming in. Agree with Scotty on the bunker. Disappointed with the bunker. Lewis Capaldi, the rapper's a bit of a worry, Scotty, but tough day yesterday for AFLW Freo fans, just missing out after a good run, but the Storm were robbed. Completely agree with you, boys.
Great analysis too, bang of the show. You didn't by any chance catch... mate, we appreciate that. You didn't by any chance catch the nonsense Goss played up to the 7 o'clock news with that lady making animal noises, did you? Because I apologise.
I missed that bit. No.
But just hang on.
No, do not.
Garlo, we'll play a little bit of it. Have a listen. So this is a lady who was asked ad hoc.
CEO of the football
Mate,
club.
he'll wait. If he listens to the show, he knows the show. Right? So
I'm sorry, mate.
Garlo, this is a lady who's been asked to ad hoc do noises. Have a listen to some of her best work. Have a listen to this.
Cow. Sheep.
That's a woman, Garlo. That's a lady doing...
I also did catch you just pondering whether you're going to be back on again next year, Goss, and based on what I've just heard, it's going to be touch and go.
Well, Robbo's thinking, is this the end? And Goss has arranged his own best of.
Champagne sort of stuff from you, boy.
Yeah, mate, it's called entertainment, Simon. It's called we try to entertain.
Right.
We're talking contracts, and you negotiate a lot of them. How do you reckon Goss and I are sitting right now? Are we required radio hosts or?
No, I'd suggest you guys go in with the unique angle. You bring something very different and very entertaining, but you hit on the hard points when you have to. So,
thank you, Simon. Appreciate it. All righty, we'll just copy and paste that over to Hutchie if we can, because I think we might need it.
Wrap that right up.
All righty. Hey, it is trades have been going on and the chat has been going on, but we go into the official trade period. How active do you envisage your football club, Simon?
We're certainly ready to go, mates. We've got a pretty strong draft hand, as you boys know. It gives us quite a bit of flexibility to either enhance our list with established talent who might want to come to our footy club, or bring in top-end talent through what's a pretty strong draft, as has been spoken about a fair bit. So we feel really well placed. I think we've had a fair bit of improvement naturally through our list throughout 2024 season, but we're very keen to continue to improve it in any way we can. So if the opportunity's there, Goss, we'll do it responsibly, but we're not going to die wondering.
Yeah, a lot of the questions that you're going to be asked by us this morning are the same old stuff that I think you've answered, ad nauseum. But it's what the Freo fans still need. I think until your list is locked away for 2025, they're basically going, can we keep asking the same questions? Chad Warner, is there any chance? Have you? One, we go back to mid-year and all this speculation that you guys, Fremantle, paid for Chad Warner's stay with his partner at Blue Bar Blue. That aside, is Chad Warner on your radar for 2025, or have you been flatly told no?
Well, you've seen, Goss, the way we've worked over the last few years with Luke Jackson coming in. Obviously, Sharpie had a really strong year last year. Jordan Clark's been a great addition to our footy club on and off the field. There's no doubt that established WA talent who are making waves over East or anywhere in the competition we're going to have an interest in, and I don't think anyone's done that more than Chad. So there's no doubt we've got a significant interest in him. If he was, to come back home or want to come back home. He's contracted next year. Sydney are on the record and very strong as saying that he'll be playing with them, and we feel he will be playing in the red and white next year, but, funnier things have happened. So we'll certainly keep an eye on the situation, but you've seen Sydney too. They've got a record of holding players to contract. So I'd be very surprised if he's not playing there next year, but we'll certainly monitor the situation.
Shea Bolton's the other one, Garlo, that I believe, and he's actually said he's not really, he can go home, he doesn't have to go home, but he will if the offer's there or the right offer's there. I believe he'll be better at Fremantle than he would be at West Coast. I think his mindset will be different. How hard are you going to go after Shea Bolton?
Yeah, look, we've clearly got an interest in Shea. He's expressed interest in coming back to WA. But again, Scotty's contract, he's actually got 4 years to run in his contract. So that gives Richmond the capability of holding on to him if something wasn't to be able to be agreed to. So, again, that's another one that we'll have discussions with during the week and see whether we can land something. But certainly a player of the capability of Shea, just, an elite user of the ball, elite finisher, genuine high-end speed and capability is someone that we'd have an interest in.
Did Tim Kelly's management Tim Kelly ever reach out to Fremantle in the last couple of weeks in regards to beyond West Coast?
No, I haven't spoken to Tim Kelly's management. I don't believe they've spoken to Wolsey in that regard. Obviously, we saw the press reports last week, Goss in particular. So I think, again, contracted player, I understand people talk about the fact that contracts don't mean as much as they used to. The thing about it is it does give clubs the leverage, and when clubs have less and less, I suppose, security in holding on to players in the current market, the AFL clearly, and the competition is moving to an area where there's more and more movement within clubs, which I think is good for the game and certainly creates a significant amount of interest and gives media time and creates, that genuine enthusiasm around the code at this time of year. Having a player contracted means that, you've got the upper hand in that respect. And Tim's contracted, as I understand it, to next year as well too. So he's far more likely to stay at West Coast.
When you talk about players and you talk about what contracts are worth, we're seeing these, you've got a couple on your list, or you've got, of course, Sean Darcy's still got a lot of work to go on his contract and the like, but we're seeing, Max King at St Kilda, massive extension and all this. Why? Give us why a club would sign a player for these incredibly long contracts. I get that you want to keep the player, but they don't seem to be worth the paper they're written on. Why do clubs and managers and players alike all agree on massive contracts when halfway through they go, we could get a better deal somewhere else, or I'm not that happy? I'd just love to get the club view on extended contracts.
Yeah, there's a number of factors, Goss. I mean, the primary one is that there's competitive tension. There's capability for players within the rest of the market to be able to go and get an extended long-term deal because there's other clubs who are willing to offer that. So in that regard, you want to retain a player, and if there's a significant offer from a competitor club for a certain period of time, then to be competitive, you've got to go towards that sort of length. You might not have to absolutely match it. And, clearly you'd like to think that you're building an environment where players want to stay. So they might forego some sort of salary and not earn as much or not get as much tenure because they want to play at your club. And we're pumped. We're absolutely ecstatic to have 18 players that are signed on from 2026 and beyond. And as you say, Goss, we've got some that are, out for 28, 29 or whatever it might be. So there's the competitive landscape that makes that, in some instances really challenging, so that you've got to actually match offers that are being made. And then that actually gives the club some negotiating and capacity to be able to maintain a player or control it as well too. The Lockie Schilt scenario last year is a classic example. Lockie was contracted for another 12 months. Family reasons and some challenges they were having meant that they were really desperate to get to Collingwood, but because he was contracted, it allowed us to be able to drive a far more favourable deal for us that ostensibly resulted in us having a couple of three first-round draft picks this year amongst a couple of other deals. So it does give you a bit of leverage, which is certainly helpful in an environment where clubs are getting less and less power.
Now, successful clubs have to make ruthless decisions, and it's also a fine line between making ruthless list decisions and then sending a message to the rest of the competition that you're heartless. It's a fine line there. But where do you sit on the careers and I know they're contracted, but Fife and Sonny Walters, who I absolutely love, where do they sit, mate? And are hard decisions coming Fremantle's way this year to go that extra step?
Yeah, as you said, Scott, he's Sonny and Matt are contracted next year. Obviously, greats of our club, done a phenomenal job over so many years. And you're right, there's a real balance for us to reach. Those two provide unbelievable value in complementing our youth. I'm sick of talking about it, and our members are sick of hearing about it. We're the second youngest list throughout most of last season. And so we've got to complement that and make sure that we've got the right balance in experience. And that's game day, but also, off the field training habits, making sure we've got the environment right. And, we know we've not gotten Matt Fife and Sonny Walters of their absolute peak 6 or 7 years ago. but that doesn't mean they can't provide, significant value in a number of different ways that might not be in the same manner that they did at their absolute peak. So it's getting the balance right there, Scotty, and that's what we'll maintain.
Most clubs do it. You only hear about the clubs that are really struggling, but have you done a full football department review post-season yet? And if so, what have you found?
Oh, mate, as you say, you sort of do it every year. We've pulled it apart forensically over the last 4 to 6 weeks. People often say you must be taking a bit of time off, but in footy admin, it's actually your most busy time when you miss out, and particularly when you have a disappointing end to a season that promised so much. So I'd say we looked at it this year closer than we ever have in my 5 years, and that's not suggesting we haven't in previous years, but pulled it apart forensically, be really hard-lined in the decisions that we need to make, both, from a playing list perspective and how we get better. We try not to be reactionary and emotional. It's really important that, we do it in a professional, objective manner. And, particularly in a year when you have so much promise, sometimes there can be emotion and passion directly after the season, but it's important we direct those actions appropriately. So we think we've done that. We're still going through that, to be honest, and setting up a football department that we think can continue our quest for premiership contention in 2025, mate.
In regards to that, you've got a spot in you as an assistant coach. Matthew Boyd's gone back, of course, and I know Bob Murphy, the king of double denim, has left whatever role he had. I'm not exactly sure what he did at the football club, but he seemed to be he seemed to be very busy.
He was just Bob Murphy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good enough for anyone.
But just a wonderful person of that class to have around your footy club. Are you replacing Bob's role with anybody, and when do we expect an announcement in regards to an assistant coach appointment?
Yeah, he used to call it the head of vibe, but it was a bit more than that. Bob played a really important role, actually, particularly assisting what is a young leadership group. I mean, obviously AP's got a great deal of experience, but when we had the transition from Matt as captain to Alex and Caleb and Andy coming through, Bob did a lot with that group and was really helpful in that regard. However, we think we've got a great opportunity to continue to build on that work. So, Boydie heading back again, it's interesting for us, Goss, those of us sand gropers who live here and have and are settled and have an amazing environment. It's not always the case, particularly with those coming from over east and family pull and the challenges of life off the field sometimes makes it a bit difficult. So we're disappointed, but no one's irreplaceable by any stretch of the imagination. We're going through that process at the moment. I'm really pleased with some of the options we've got. Bit too early, Goss, but watch this space. I think in the next week or two we'll be making some announcements about what we're going to have in terms of restructured footy department, Boydie, the replacement there, as well as a bunch of stuff within the leadership and cultural space as well too, which we're excited about.
We've been busy.
All right, we're looking forward to that one. As you talked about Alex Pearce and we talked about Andrew Brayshaw, they head into 2025 as free agents. There's lots of chat about Brayshaw in particular. How active are you in that space, and would you like to give them, will they be long-term contracts? Are they in the making at the moment?
We're having discussions with them, Goss, absolutely. Yeah, really excited about. I think you just judge people on their behaviours and their levels of commitment, and I don't think you could have anyone more committed than those two. AP, obviously, they're both off on a break at the moment, but you're in discussions with both of them, and really enthusiastic, excited about their future here at Fremantle beyond 2025, as you say, becoming free agents at the end of next year. But we'll continue to work with them and their management over the coming weeks and months, if not earlier, and look to lock them away as long as we possibly can.
There's a lot of talk and a lot of interest about the players who are regularly rolling out with Peel, Garlo, so Erasmus and Johnson. Yep. Will Brodie obviously is the other one. O'Driscoll, who's probably too big to be a waffle player. He's a fairly handy player, but Reedy as well, who's come on really well. Where do they sit? Have any of them expressed an interest to look elsewhere and to seek opportunities elsewhere?
No, we don't think so, Scotty. In obviously constant discussions with the guys, and they're the really challenging ones. Who are guys who are clearly playing at the level below and doing a phenomenal job and playing incredibly consistent footy. and have the capability. Some of them having shown it in Will's case, and others with great promise. So making sure they maintain, the enthusiasm. I feel our coaches do a phenomenal job in ensuring that they understand what they want them to work on in constant dialogue. It's a bit different from our day, Scotty, when you got dropped and no one spoke to you for 3 or 4 weeks. You're required to just ply your trade on your own. But I think Will and Raz in particular, I see them as, absolutely opportunities to be Freo premiership players in coming years. And, we do have depth in that area, which is really important. We had a really good run with injury, particularly around that midfield, and we were an elite clearance and contested team. So opportunities were a bit sparse, but I think that's not always going to be the case. And to have guys of that capability, but also that character is pretty exciting. We think our list is well placed, but, the exciting thing about the next couple of weeks or the next 10 days is that we've got opportunities to add to it.
Yeah, so we had listeners say that he was sitting next to Will Brodie and Justin Longview at a Trig Cafe last week, and now we read that he's sticking around. So he's obviously keen to fulfil his end of the bargain. Didn't play a game this year. You certainly have to be resilient in this game. I mean, he had a nice contract put before him. He was playing regular footy, but he's certainly been a staple down at Peel Thunder. He's better than that, I would imagine, Garlo.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big Will fan, as I am of Raz. Scotty mentioned Driscoll as well too, and Liam Reedy. There's some genuine talent and capability there, but there's only 23 spots every week. And when you have a reasonable injury run, our high performance guys have done a great job in recent years. It can be tight, but they're great characters as well, which is really important in these circumstances. They, were frustrated and disappointed. You can imagine those two young men in particular, the midfielders we're speaking about, have got high expectations on themselves, really keen to make their mark in AFL footy. So when that's not happening, you can imagine how frustrated they get. But they do it in the right way. And it's really important that we as a club are good communicators with them in relation to why they're not playing, what they can do to continue to improve, so that they're ready to go when they are. And I've got no doubt those two are going to be significant players in 2025. All
right, last one before I let you go. You've been very giving of your time this morning. Simon Garlick, the CEO of the Fremantle Football Club. I'm going to really simplify it. What's your out of 10 Shea Bolton getting it done? What's your out of 10? It seems to be the priority one of your football club at the moment. He's certainly making noises. He spoke at the Fremantle Club Champion like he was departing the scene there. Richmond, sorry. What's your thought process on getting that job done? Are you confident?
See, Scotty, this is where Goss just puts one outside off, just that are short of a length, and just expects you to have a swing at it. And when you've been in the game for a little while, this is when just the forward defensive comes into play. And
good leads.
You express, correct, just shoulder arms and let it go.
Don't leave it, Simon. It's on the stumps. Don't leave it, Simon. It is on the stumps. It'll take out a middle peg very quickly.
You're never on the stumps, Goss. Come on, mate. You're always a bit wider than mate. No, I'm not going to fall for that one, Goss. Absolutely. Look, we're hopeful, but the brutal reality is that he's contracted for 4 years. So Richmond can dig their heels in. They can flat out say no. We've got a strong desire to bring Shea to our football club, but we've got to be responsible too, Goss. We don't need to sell the farm for any one player. There's not going to be one player that's a silver bullet that's going to make the difference. We think there are players, and Shea's inclusive of that can help us to get better. And if there's a deal that can be done that we think is at the right level for us from a responsibility perspective, then we'll certainly entertain that. But if it's not, then we move on and we continue to build as the way we have been over the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, brilliant. I missed this one. I was just down on my computer. But Dan on Twitter, on X, says, Simon, your strategic plan calls for 2 flags by 2025. You have 12 months and 3 seasons to achieve this, including 2 AFLW seasons. Do you expect to meet this objective? If not, why not? No playing a straight bat.
That's what he said. That's written. Yeah.
That's written that way.
No,
what do you got for
Dan. That's Dan on X, was it?
Yep.
No, thank you, Dan. Absolutely, that's the categoric aim. We're not stepping away from that for a moment. You get a few critics, and particularly if you're falling short of a couple of your stated aims in our game, which is fine. We'd much prefer to be a club that puts ourselves on the hook and then throws everything at it, trying to achieve what are our stated aims. And we think we've got a genuine opportunity. I think we spoke at the Doig Medal about the fact that, you know, our period of contention and sustained success being some mythical place out in the future, that's just over now. We want to contend next year and give ourselves a massive shake at winning it. So, Dan, that's absolutely the aim. We'll throw everything into it. We're not going to hold back, and you know, we expect 2025 to be a big year. And we'll do it with the notion of making sure that we extend our window as long as possible as well too. We want to try and win a flag in 2025 and beyond in both our programs, but you know, in a way that allows us to contend over a sustained period as well too. So it's an exciting time.
We've gone some hard-hitting questions.
Yeah,
Josh, do you want to play maybe the Wren just so Garlo can go into his day nice and, you know, zen and relax?
I want to finish with a couple. Now, Garlo, there's a couple of little...
He's still going.
Yeah, there's a couple of little sound effects I've plucked over the journey. This is just so you can just relax while you're sitting at the office. It's a busy time for the footy club. This is a Wren. Now, this is a blue Wren, and it's not just a blue Wren,
Simon. Is this interview still going?
You're on there, Simon.
Oh, we're on there. Okay.
Simon, have a listen to the blue Wren and just picture a beautiful blue Wren. Have a listen to this.
Yeah. So calming.
What a way to
Very
start
calming.
on Monday.